Hey guys, Matt Hoots here with Softwares, and I've got a rock star with me. You've seen him on all of our YouTube videos with regards to ZLINE. Ran into him 2020, saw him again last year. So really, actually it was this year. Some really cool products they have, some things that we're going to talk about today. Not only about their gas appliances, their cooktops, induction cooktops especially, electric ranges, and ventilation. So lucky to have Logan with ZLINE on a Zoom call, not in person at the Builder Show, but got some really good questions that we're going to talk about and points for our clients that are looking to go all electric.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Matt. It's good to see you again. And yeah, for any of those of you out there that don't know me, my name is Logan Ballou. I got my start with ZLINE here, close to 5 years ago, which is actually whenever I had the chance to run into Matt for the first time. So he's really seen, my trajectory through the years, and things have really taken a new shape for us as of recent. And yeah, as of now, I'm managing the East region for ZLINE. So really everything on the eastern seaboard of the U.S. I try to oversee that in terms of just building up our relationships with partners, and that's kind of my gig.
We are building an amazing house. We're doing the first ever passive house in Georgia, and our appliance partner for that is ZLINE. I've talked to ZLINE for, I don't know, it's probably 3 or 4 years now. Logan, met him at the International Builder Show. This was right as the pandemic was hitting. And man,
Yeah.
lots of things have changed since then. And lots of things within your company. I ran into you last year and I got really excited because like the first year we talked about hoods. Second year, actually, I don't know if I saw you the next year after that. But when I saw you last year, a lot of the focus that you previously had was on gas cooktops, gas cooking. And man, I really like the way you guys put a lot of emphasis on the design. Your stuff looks really sexy, and I think that's what
Yeah.
a lot of people drives you to it, along with your hoods, and that was what we talked about first. But you guys have added something else to the mix. So tell me a little about induction as far as like why you guys decided to get into this market of where most of the elitists are saying, hey, we need to go with gas. Like what kind of market shifts have you seen with people trying to go to induction?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just really trying to, kind of keep up with the times, right? We do see that the future is likely induction, right? So we knew it was very important to get a functional, again, sexy looking product out there that's relatively cost affordable, cost effective, to be able to work with projects exactly like this one with you guys' passive house that we're doing down there in Georgia. So the energy efficiency is huge as well, right? Moving forward, sustainability is the key to a lot of things in this industry, right? Building products that are sustainable for future generations, and that's really what we saw. Just kind of pushing towards induction as kind of the future. Yes, we have been known for our gas cooktops, gas ranges in the past, and we still are. We still put out really effective gas products, but just offering a wide range of products to suit plenty of customers' needs out there, and that's kind of our game plan right now. Yeah.
So what was this something where you saw were there market forces that were like, hey, there's a lot of people because again, induction is such a small percentage of the market still. Gas is still number one. There's still some electric, infrared cooking, but did you feel like market forces were like were people asking for this, were designers and builders saying, hey, we need induction? Or is this something like, we kind of see the future, we see some of these things that are happening out there. We want to go ahead and just offer this just to be ready for when this tidal wave of requests comes through for induction?
Yeah, I think, and of course, I'm working specifically in the eastern region of the United States, so I've seen it's sort of different depending on the state, right? There are some, certain codes in certain cities and certain states that are gonna, kind of push people to towards more induction and kind of getting away from gas. The primary markets that we're seeing there would be like New York. We're seeing a lot of induction being used there, and Florida. People are really pushing hard for induction. So that's where we see a majority of the sales growth coming from right now. In certain other states, it's a lot more heavy with gas. So I think some people are just kind of ahead of the curve in that regard, and some people are still sort of catching up, right? I think the fact that we're doing the first passive house in Georgia kind of speaks to that, in fact. So So yeah, I mean, it's definitely more prevalent. Induction is in certain areas, and Florida and really a lot of areas in the Northeast we've seen have had a really strong desire for induction cooking.
That really, I mean, those are two completely different markets. There may be the same people living in the house because you have a lot of people coming down from New England, New York to Florida because of the warmer climate, especially during the winter. But
Yeah.
if you look at the map of like the types of fuel sources that most people use, Florida is actually mostly electric. So it's ironic that a lot of people in Florida are like, hey, we need gas, or
Yeah.
they're upset about even the hint of people saying you can't have a gas cooktop. It's like, well, you don't already, you have electric. So I really want
Right.
to talk about, I think for them going with induction makes sense because electric is nice. It is probably safer than gas, but if you're looking at electric cooktop versus induction, it's not the same thing, and the performance is better on induction. So that's that side in Florida. But I guess with New York, it's so Florida would probably be more performance driven, where New York is more like, man, like you just can't have gas. I even saw an article recently like we can't even have traditional pizza ovens in some of these restaurants in New York City. So I
Mhm.
don't know if there's an induction pizza oven, but I tell you what, I think some of it's performance, and on the other side, it's more like, okay, the laws are changing, we have to adapt for that.
I think you're exactly right, and yeah, that's exactly what I was hinting at. Where like, there are certain codes and certain laws that are definitely pushing people in that direction for sure, especially in the Northeast. Not only New York, really a lot of those states up there are really pushing towards induction, and that's why we've put a lot of energy recently into R&D and our induction cooktops, and we have some new induction ranges coming out at the end of this year too. That's hopefully going to suit those markets really well.
So let's talk about the performance because that's the first thing. Because I mean, I've been making induction standard in all of our projects now. Obviously, leading with your project, with your products, I show my clients like, hey, this is a very nice option to have. It's reasonably priced. I think that's what you guys are going for, is like, basically a luxury look at a reasonable price. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's what you guys told me in the past. But when you're looking at gas versus electric, because I say, hey, we're going with induction, and for me, it's for several reasons. You mentioned safety, but performance. Like people don't realize that by, and I'm calling it an upgrade. It's not a downgrade. By upgrading to induction cooktops, you're actually able to cook food faster. The pot gets hot faster. We've done some tests in the past, and we're going to do a test with you guys in a few weeks where we're going to show that a boil off between induction and gas, like there is no loss by going with induction. In fact, you're actually gaining some of your precious time. If you're one of these high net worth individuals billing out at thousands of dollars an hour, every little second counts. So going with induction is actually going to save you time over gas.
Absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree. And I think it's kind of interesting whenever you kind of do some research online regarding induction, that's usually kind of viewed as a negative for people, is the fact that this pot or pan is going to heat up so quickly. There is kind of a learning curve associated with that, right? You got to be careful as opposed to, your cooking methods in the past using a gas cooktop. You kind of need to heat that pan up, kind of let it preheat a little bit. Whereas induction, you kind of just jump straight into it, right? And so that does tend to be a learning curve for folks. But I agree with you, Matt. Where like that's a huge advantage. Me myself, I love saving time. I have induction in my home actually, and so being able to just toss something on the cooktop and then, like you said, it boils water in like a minute. I mean, if you do that side by side with a gas cooktop, it's just you're not able to compare. How much quicker it is. It's so much quicker, so much more efficient, and yeah, the safety features as well, right? Like that cooktop is like you remove that pan from it, you can put your hand right there, and you're good. Like it doesn't retain heat like that, but the burner will effectively stay on only when you need it, which I think is really effective.
And it's interesting because we talked before about some of the pros and cons and of induction versus gas, and it's really interesting. So like when so some of my clients, like when we first went over to some other technologies, so you went from like a tank water heater to a tankless water heater. There were some cons with that, and one of them was, and my clients complained about this, like with the tankless water heater, it's not that gas light is not going to kick on until you go into a certain amount of gallons per minute. I think it's like 0.6 was like the trigger for the flame to actually kick on. So they actually had to waste water in order for it to come on. That was
Right.
truly a con. Or and in that point, what we had to do is put some sort of point of use or some sort of circulating pump to basically offset that. Now, with you, you said the con, and that's definitely a learning curve. You had to understand this is a new technology. It's going to perform differently. It's not just going to come on immediately. I don't see that as a con though with your product, because when you say it's like, oh, it heats up faster, or when you shut it off, it cools off immediately. That really means there's more control. And I
Yeah.
think that's the difference between yours and others. Like when you take a normal pot and you're cooking on gas or electric, traditional electric, you take it off, there's still all that heat that's in that pot or that's on the cooktop. You actually have to move it to another burner for it to release. With induction, you turn it off, it's off. You turn it on, it's on. So yes, there's a learning curve, but once you learn that there's more control with this, you can better cook your food. You can also, you've got those more precise temperatures, I believe, as well. So, I mean, I know people complain about this, but does the complaint eventually go away once they learn how to use it?
Absolutely. And that's why I call it a learning curve, right? Because worst case scenario, you're gonna mess a couple of meals up and fail a couple of times, and then you're gonna figure it out. And like you said, Matt, you're gonna have a lot more control over an induction cooking surface versus a gas cooking surface where you're putting out a certain amount of BTUs out of that gas burner, and who really knows what the temperature of your pot or pan is, right? Whereas induction, you have a lot more control over that. So yeah, definitely a positive in my opinion. Even if you do have to kind of push past that learning curve a little bit, I think most people will, pun intended here, warm up to it.
Well, and you brought up a good point because I had somebody in the comment section, and we're going to do an experiment with one of your cooktops to show the difference. But they're like, hey man, I turned this on super high. I had more flame going around. It was going all the way around the pot. What I don't think they realize is you can have a lot of gas. You can have more energy put on the pot. Not all that energy is transferred to the pot and to the water. It can only absorb so much. The rest of it's going around the pot and it's going through the hood. Where induction, all the energy, or I'd say at least 90% or more, compared to less than 50% on the gas side, that energy is transferred directly to the pot to whatever you're cooking. So from efficiency point of view alone, it makes sense. And typically, efficiency also means lower cost to operate.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there, Matt. I don't think I could have said it better myself. I mean, you're really taking all that energy that's kind of pushed up all around the pot with gas, and you're directing all that energy really into the pot or pan with induction cooking, and just far less gas emissions, right? No gas emissions, in fact, with the induction cooktop. So you're keeping the air in your home cleaner, and really directing all of that energy directly where you need it, which is the pot.
All right. So Logan, with regards to efficiency, you talked about this is more efficient because it cooks faster, but also it requires less energy to actual cook. So on each burner, like what are the ranges for the amount of watts that are needed for these burners?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it obviously varies between our 30 and 36-inch cooktop because you're going to have one additional burner on that 36-inch. The 30-inch induction cooktop that we have is only going to, it only requires 30-inch or 30 amps for that. The 36-inch is going to require 40 there. Now, the largest burner on both of these is, of course, that middle burner, huge ring.
Okay.
On the lower setting, it's gonna be about 2,300 watts. On the higher setting, it'll be 3,700, and so that's on your largest. On the smallest burner, by comparison, here it's on the lower setting, it's 1,200 watts. The highest setting is 1,500.
And that is less than traditional electric. So because it sounds like traditional electric is more resistance heating. It's also infrared. So it's trying to heat up the surface, which is transferring it to the pot. While this does take energy, it sounds like it takes less energy. So for a lot of the people that are trying to convert their houses from gas to electric, the challenges are the cooktops, you've got the water heaters, and you have the HVAC systems. And for water heaters and HVAC, it seems like there's ways of converting to electric, actually using less energy, especially if you already have a condenser on the house. And it sounds like it's not that much of an increase to go with induction if you're only using like one or two at a time. So you're not overloading your house or having to upgrade your panel.
Yeah, absolutely. You hit the nail on the head there for sure. It's a lot more energy efficient, of course. Anytime you're going with induction, it's much more energy efficient than going with a gas cooktop. That's just a fact. And I think more people are starting to come around to that these days.
So let's talk about some of the safety features. Obviously, not having a flame in your house is a good safety feature, not
Yeah.
burning things and not burning your house down. But what are some of the other safety features? I mean, I've seen people do experiments where they've had a induction pot, they pull it off, they stick their hand directly on the burner. Again, not recommending that, but didn't seem like there's any second or third degree burns by them doing that. So let's talk about some of the safety features that you have with induction.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely the biggest one, right? It's just the coolness of the cooking surface, not having an open flame that's on for an extended amount of time. We've even seen, certain cases where, we do have recommendations too for how high you put a range hood above a cooking surface. Occasionally, you still will have those customers out there that put it a little bit too close. And we've seen situations where, a gas flame can even melt some of the components in that range hood.
Wow.
And that's a whole different safety concern, right? Where you're burning stuff up in your range hood, and who knows what could happen from that. Whereas induction, I mean, you could have it a lot closer to that cooking surface, with it still being safe, even though there's still going to be a recommended space there. You're a lot safer than, versus having an open flame.
So you mentioned one thing, like the potential of the range hood melting, because with the flame, you've got a lot of heat. Not all the heat gets transferred to the pot, like we mentioned earlier. So with induction, I mean, how much, you still need a range hood because you still have off gassing from the food, fingerprints, stuff like that get burned off a little bit when you touch it. But how much heat is actually going through that range hood versus if you're cooking with gas?
I know it has to be a tremendously less amount of heat actually going into the range hood from there, because you can tell whenever you're cooking on induction just by waving your hand above it how much less heat there actually is above that surface versus cooking on a gas cooktop. So I would think it would be a much less amount of heat going into that range hood for sure.
Yeah, I would think of that. Again, I don't know the exact numbers, but like you said, wave your hand above it. Maybe a little bit of steam that's coming through there. So it's like
Yeah.
off the food itself versus off the pot or the cooking source. But basically with the induction, like there's no actual heat transfer from the surface into the pot. So you don't have to worry about anything coming off the range itself. It's just whatever's coming off the food, it sounds like.
Yep, exactly.
So what are the features that you have on or induction is the fact that it's got the sensor on there and it actually somehow magically knows that if the pot is there or not. So if you pull it off, it automatically shuts off. Just like induction is magic. That's how I explain it to most of my clients. Like, how does it work? I say either magnets or magic.
Yeah.
If they are physicists, then I can explain it a little bit better to them. But for most
Yeah.
people, I'd say it's magic. So is that something that's standard on all of your cooktops, that automatic shut off feature?
No, absolutely not. I mean, especially, the not the gas cooktops, at least. Any
Yeah.
induction cooktops though, that's of course a feature that you're going to get there. So yeah, I think it's really important, again, for safety reasons. If you're anything like me, you can be a little forgetful about burners on the cooktop. If you're, enjoying your Sunday and you head off to the market, wherever you're going, whatever your plans are for your Sunday, and you accidentally leave that on, you kind of have a little bit of peace of mind. In fact, whenever you realize it, whenever you're out doing whatever you're doing on your Sunday, oh, I left the cooktop on. That's fine. It's induction, right? So yes, that is a feature that you will get on any ZLINE induction cooking surface. Absolutely. Whenever you remove that pot or pan, immediate shut off.
That's a great point because you mentioned like finish cooking, you take it off. If you have an electric cooktop, it's typically that burner is going to stay on until you turn it off. And those usually heat up in cycles too. It's not consistent like induction. It doesn't have that precise temperature control. It's like, all right, it's cooling off. I need to heat up again, provide that resistance heating. It heats up, then it comes off. And if you look at it, it's like, oh, it's not red. It must be off. Well, it just could be in a cooling cycle and you're not sure about that. So the fact that these automatically shut off is a good safety feature, especially for not burning your house down or just kids coming around and touching it.
Yeah. If you like to, if you like to enjoy a home that, isn't on fire, then induction cooktop is usually the way to go, man, for sure. Just for peace of mind purposes. Um, I mean, I would love for somebody to find me a case of, you know, induction gone wrong, because I'm sure there's a lot more cases out there of gas going wrong
Oh,
than
absolutely.
induction, right? So yeah, definitely a big safety feature. And you know, if you're thinking in terms of like safety for your family and your home, induction's definitely the way to go.
You mentioned that you guys are at least in your third generation of products, so that means you're making iterations, making improvements. Induction's been on the market, quite a while. It's usually as a like a cooking plate in a physics lab or something like that. Finally made it into kitchens, and what I've heard is that it's getting better and better with each iteration, but also as it's getting better, the cost seems to be trending downward a little bit versus and probably in the next few years, it's going to be at parity with electric. So at that point, it's kind of like when I was looking at, remember when they were pushing for CFLs? It's like everyone needs to put a CFL, it'd be green. Unfortunately, you break them. There's chemicals in there. There's mercury, other heavy metals that get into the environment. Then LEDs just came down way in price. The performance was better. Then I don't see anybody pushing CFLs anymore. The electric cooktop, is it going to go out the way the CFL has because of LED and induction?
I think that's a trend that you see really with any new technology, right? It's gonna, you know, naturally that price is gonna start way up here over the years as we learn, you know, as humanity learns to, you know, make this more affordable. That cost will inevitably go down. I do have that listed as one of the negatives, for me at least, with induction cooking. I mean, you get all those added safety benefits, you know, less gas emissions and more precise temperature control that we talked about. But right now, that cost is a little bit higher than a gas range, you know, that you know, over the years, just traditionally speaking, has been more popular in America,
Yeah.
at least. And yeah, I do hope to see that number kind of trend down though, moving forward. Um, yeah, we'll see how that goes, but I'm pretty sure you're correct. Yeah, I would hope to see that technology as it improves, that cost be a little bit more effective and affordable. That's kind of what we hang our hat on here at
Mhm.
ZLINE, right? The attainable luxury, offering a, you know, a nice, sexy product at an affordable price point. Um, and we hope to be able to do that with induction soon, because right now it is, you know, a little bit more pricey, but you're paying for those upgraded features.
So, I mean, let's talk about just retail price. Say if you take something in a mid-level house, if you're taking equal quality, like what would a Z-line, this is retail pricing. Obviously, people can shop at the many different places you guys sell this product and find and negotiate with those particular dealers. But like, what is a range cost that is gas and the same quality just with induction?
So you're talking about, like, you know, either probably looking at a 30-inch range, just as
Hmm.
comparison here. If we're looking at like a dual fuel, we're hovering in the mid 2000s, depending on like accent upgrades and stuff that people do. If you go with the brass burners, aluminum burners, but generally speaking, we're, you know, in the middle of the in between 2 and 3,000.
Okay.
Induction is, you know, on the flip side, is about 1,000 more. Usually, we're in between 3 and 4,000, again, depending on upgrades that people might do for the hardware on our ranges, but typically around, you know, 3,800. We do have some new and improved induction ranges that'll be coming out towards the end of Q4 that, you know, hopefully aren't much more than that, but I do know they're going to have some upgraded components that, you know, could potentially push that cost upwards of 4,000. So again, you are paying a little bit more, but you know, I think with the peace of mind for, you know, the safety and then the just overall efficiency of the unit, I do think it's worth the investment.
Yeah, and to be honest, and this also speaks to the fact that you guys have found a way to come up with a nice range that's gas, that's also at an affordable price point. Other manufacturers are probably charging the same for gas, what you guys are charging for induction. So I guess it really depends on the brands that you're looking at. Within your brand, it costs a little bit more. But if you're looking at the retail luxury marketplace, I mean, some people are paying three times that for a gas range on the
Yep.
on the higher end, where if you're looking at their induction versus your induction, the performance is the same. So I guess comparing induction into induction, you guys have a really good product. And the same thing on the gas, thank you for coming up with something that's at a good price point. But
Mhm.
I kind of feel like it's worth it. It's an extra $1,000. You're putting in a nice luxury kitchen. Like I know it was $1,000, but from all the pros that you have with it, I don't see that would be a detractor. if you're putting a nice luxury kitchen in. They can also go with the cooktop because I've seen the pricing on some of your cooktops, the non ranges, and it was priced the same as gas when it came to that. Because I was doing some comparison shopping for a project that we're working on, and I was really
Mhm.
surprised, like, oh, the cooktops on both sides are a lot closer in price.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, here at ZLINE, that's our whole thing, right, man, is like just trying to really source the most affordable and dependable components from all over the world. That way we can bring, a nice luxury but affordable product here to the United States. And we're going to keep that same mindset with induction for sure.
I do remember that, like the first video we did together, one of the comments, like one of the employees was just so proud of like where all the different parts were from. They're mentioning all the different countries and stuff like that. That was pretty cool. It's like,
Yeah.
there's pride in where it's being sourced from, but also by sourcing from different places, you're able to put something together and kind of work around some supply chains where it's just coming from one particular place. So that's one good thing about your product that I noticed, but also just the fact that somebody chimed in from your company and I know it wasn't solicited, but you can just tell that they are happy to be working for ZLINE.
Yeah, that's I'm lucky enough to work in a really good culture here at ZLINE where a lot of people are on board, and we do feel like we're actually making a positive impact in the market, helping people save on their kitchen appliance budget. That way they can put more money into other areas of their home, but still achieve the look and the feel out of their appliances that they were going for without spending $40,000 on a kitchen appliance package.
Yeah,
Come to
that's
Z-Line,
crazy.
pay around 10 to 15,000, and get the same look, feel, and dependability. That's the idea.
So let's talk about future-proofing houses. So one of the things that and I saw this I think it was 2 years ago at the International Builder Show, like one of I think the renovation, it was like, hey, we're net zero energy, but they had gas in there. And I'm like, technically, I guess they can convert kilowatts to therms and they can say they're net zero energy, but because they had solar in the house. But for me, I look at net zero energy more of, all right, or even going off the grid, if you have gas, you can't really call yourself net zero energy because you can't create that own power source yourself. Although you can, I mean, you can compost, you can collect the methane off of that, possibly have that built up into some chamber and come into the house. But I doubt people are going to try to cook with their compost. The reason I like going with induction or all electric is, say, the power does go out, you've got a solar panel on your roof, or if there's some sort of disruption, and we had this in Texas where all the gas lines froze, they didn't have gas. So I do think that electric is the safer option with that electric backup with the power panel. So kind of talk through about how your products are compatible with solar, and how much power does an induction cooktop actually take?
In terms of just being more dependable, yeah, of course, if your gas lines freeze, you're kind of SOL there, right? Whereas induction is running 100% off electric. Anytime you can do that with an appliance, it's naturally going to be more sustainable, especially, with how popular solar is becoming in the United States these days, right? So that's a huge draw and a huge benefit to induction as well, right? It's, if you get in a pinch, you should be able to still, get that cooktop up and going.
So let's talk about the pots, because we talked about some of the cons. And somebody pointed out, I was like, hey, I just paid for all these pots, the copper. Obviously, copper is not going to work because it's not electromagnetic, and that's how you can tell if it works or not. But you guys have kind of taken that out of the equation. You guys have come up with your own line of pots and pans that works on gas, electric, or induction. So can you tell us a little about those
Yeah.
and how are they cross compatible with all the different types of cooking?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to use our cookware on a gas cooktop, you're going to have a good experience. But the fact is that they've been designed with induction cooking in mind, right? These are induction capable and induction designed cookware, right? So it's nice and heavy, nice and smooth bottom as well. As a lot of people don't really think about these sorts of things, but
Yeah.
whenever you go to induction cooking, the heavier that pot or pan is, really the better, because it's going to press down into that glass more, and just those magnetic coils are just going to agree better with that pot or pan that you're resting on it, the heavier that it is. So yes, our cookware is nice and solid for that reason, nice and heavy. And I think you've seen it in that video in the past. It is
Oh yeah.
ZLINE branded, so it looks great whenever you pair that with one of our induction ranges as well, or an induction cooktop. Um, but yeah, I mean, the cookware, I've actually, again, used that personally at home on my induction. So it's worked phenomenally for me. And, you know, while we're talking about this as well, I think probably another negative that could be viewed with induction cooktop would be just the cooking surface. Of course, you're cooking on a
Yeah.
smooth glass surface, right? So whenever you're using these pots and pans, hopefully a Z-Line cookware set, don't, you know, scoot that around. Don't really be sliding that on that induction cooktop, because of course it's going to be more prone to scratches. That's one thing I look forward to as this technology improves, is hopefully some more scratch resistant glass cooktops, because of course if you're cooking on a gas cooktop, that's not really something you have to worry about scratching up the cooktop because it's sitting
Sure.
on the grates, right? So that's another thing to kind of think about with induction as well. But yeah.
But you mentioned also, and this is something that I think people don't realize, it is like you need to match the cooktop, the pot or the pan, to the size of the burner on induction, because you want to capture, I mean, it is radiation. You want to capture all that, the radiation from the coils directly into the pot. You don't want to go at, you know, because it's basically exciting metals and that's how it heats up. So it sounds like your pots and pans are designed to work with the standard induction. Well, I guess, you know, is it just for your induction, or can this work on any induction? Because what if somebody already has it in their house and like, I don't know where to get the right pots and pans? They can buy your pots and pans there as well, correct?
Yeah. So funny enough, actually, in my home, I had, I think it was a Frigidaire induction range that was in there originally before I moved to the Z-Line, and I still had that same cookware. Worked phenomenally on the Frigidaire. So it's definitely cross compatible across multiple brands. That being said, it's a 10-piece set that is designed with our induction cooktop in mind, right? So you're going to have some different configurations out there in the market depending on which brand you go with. You'll have some different size coils, you know, depending on that brand and that manufacturer and what they do. What I would say is our cookware, like the diameter and radius of, you know, all of our cookware is going to match up perfectly with, you know, the sizes of the burners, because to your point, Matt, you're going to want to really maximize that space right there. You want to get a pot or a pan that's going to really fill up that whole surface of the burner, be that a smaller or larger burner. So we have some smaller or larger, you know, cookware, depending on what you need for that. But you definitely want to fill up that space. You're going to see the ring on the induction cooktop, of course, and you want to get a pan that's going to really maximize that space as much as possible.
All right, so let's talk about where to buy your products, because when I do a search for it, I see some stuff on the website. Mostly see it in third-party retailers. So it sounds like you guys are all over the place. So getting access to your product is not that difficult.
It's really not. There's a few different ways of purchasing the products. And I do have some insight to that, you know, working with our independent retailers across the country. Of course, we're carried in all the big box stores for convenience. You know, a lot of people prefer to do their shopping at Lowe's, Home
Mhm.
Depot. A lot of times that's where they're, you know, first figuring out about Z-Line at, is in store there. But there are some benefits actually to purchasing our products through the independent retailer side, which you can go onto our online, you know, our website, the home website, zlinekitchen.com. We have a showroom map there that's only going to list independent retailers across the
Okay.
country, right? So your local stores, highly recommend ordering through them, because if they're on that showroom map, that means they have at least 4 Z-Line pieces on display. So you're going to get a really good idea of, you know, a few different product categories that Z-Line offers. But additionally, whenever you order through those dealers, you'll get an extra year of warranty out of your range. And so we've, you know, kind of set that up to kind of promote more of that independent retail side of things. And, you know, Z-Line is map protected, right? Meaning that customers do not shop Z-Line based on price point, because should be seeing the same, you know,
Yeah.
retail price out there advertised by all dealers, right? So if you're not shopping Z-Line in terms of price point, definitely give that showroom map a look. And you're going to get an extra year warranty potentially out of your range. So, because
Now, is
it
that
comes standard with 1 year, right? So if you order from the independent dealer that's displaying 4 pieces, you're going to get 2 years.
Now, is there anything special? Do they have to do the install? Because I know some manufacturers, if they install it, that's how you get that extra year warranty from a factory trained installer, or is it just purchasing from them?
It's only purchased. Yeah, we're really just trying to push some
Okay.
business to that independent retail side. and really just offering customers that personable kind of experience coming into their local store and supporting, some local business. That's kind of the idea behind that. Yeah, that's effectively it. There's no need to like additionally register anything. Like we have a system on our end that will read who you purchased from, and that warranty is automatically in our system. So no need to jump through any additional hoops or anything to get that additional year of warranty. You just buy it from that independent dealer, and you're good to go.
Okay. And I know you kind of surprised me by offering induction this year at the Builder Show. So in 2024, are you allowed to talk about this? Is there anything new that I'm going to see at your booth in 2024? Because I have to be honest, like your booth was really nice,
Yeah.
especially for I see a lot of manufacturers scaling back, and you guys did not hold back at all in your booth. It looked like it was very busy. It's very noisy, which is good. That means there are people in there talking. So we did our interview, and I'm glad we had those mics on you and me because otherwise you wouldn't be able to hear. So, like,
Yeah.
is there anything new that you're allowed to give us a sneak preview on?
There is actually, and it's I guess you could call it a sneak preview. It's not really something that we've heavily promoted in the past, but the current induction cooktops that we actually have on hand and can ship out have already gone through the upgrades that our induction ranges are now seeing. Right, so we added a thicker layer of glass, and much more efficient and larger coils under that glass. Right, so that's something that's actually already been implemented on our induction cooktops, but not a feature that anybody would have seen in the previous generation of induction ranges that we had. So at the show next year, you should see us with an induction range on display, freestanding induction range that will have those upgraded components in it, right? Better glass, better coils. And who knows, there might be some changes to the oven capacity as well. We'll kind of,
Ooh.
hold our breath there and see, but we still don't have the exact specs on those new units yet, still in the design process. But we're looking forward to introducing those towards the end of Q4 this year, hopefully, and should have them on display at the show. So really excited for that.
Now we've been talking about induction this whole time, in comparison to gas, but you guys are really known for your range hoods, and I have to say that like the emphasis that you guys put into the design of those is second to none. So what I really like about your range hoods is they actually are designed to match whatever cooking surface they go with. And I'm assuming that if somebody buys a cooking surface, you guys can tell them automatically, like this is the size range hood that you need. You don't have to go out there and do additional research. Is that information available on your website where people can just go to? It's like, all right, this is 36-inch cooktop. I can go with this kind of range hood. If I go with gas, I need this many CFM or this much CFM. If I go induction, I need less. Like how can people find out? Because ventilation is very important. It doesn't matter if you're using gas or electric or induction, you need to have good ventilation. So how do people properly size their vent hoods, or more specifically, a Z-Line vent hood?
That's a great question, Matt. And actually, usually what a customer would see is, depending on the cooking surface that they've bought, they'll actually get some recommendations from that manufacturer on the, specifications of range hood to look for, right? So main thing that people are looking at most times is depending on that BTU output of their cooking surface, finding a good CFM level, right? We have some hoods that are at 400 CFM. We have some that have a maximum of 700 CFM. We even have some that are that just recently came out. We have an outdoor line of range hoods now that are actually made to go over a grill, and so those can crank out 1200 CFM on like a patio, because of course you're throwing more up at that hood if you've got it over a grill.
Yeah.
So, but that's not the only thing to consider, right? You're going to want to think about depth in terms of like front to back of that range hood. Make sure it's really covering that whole surface, because if it's more shallow than that cooking surface, of course you could lose some smoke and some grease to the front of that range hood, especially if the CFM isn't high, right? So I would say if you're going to get a more shallow range hood front to back, and it's not going to cover that full surface, make sure you're getting a motor in there that's capable of really pulling that in. And so those are the main things to look for. Of course, you want the width to be at least the width of the cooktop, if not one size up. We do have customers out there that are using multiple burners at once, cooking large meals for families. And a lot of those situations we recommend, maybe they're on a 36-inch cooktop, might recommend a 42-inch range hood for them, just to get a little bit more width there, a little bit more coverage there. So there's some of the things to look for. Really, main thing is going to be the CFM levels, CFM capability of the motor, and the actual like specifications for the width and depth of the range hood.
And one thing I do want to just add to that with kitchen designers, they are usually, if you're redoing your kitchen, you're putting a better cooktop in, you're putting a better range hood in, or actually you might even be putting a range hood in for the first time. And just a public service announcement, make sure that you talk to your HVAC company, let them know that for every CFM of air going out, you also have to have makeup air coming in. A lot of people don't think about that. They just suck it all out. And then like in my house, unfortunately, it's coming down my chimney. So I had to like block off my chimney and make sure my makeup air is coming through my HVAC. So it's filtered from the outside, because you suck it out, which is good for ventilation. It's good for indoor air quality, but you could be making your indoor quality worse if you're sucking it in from the wrong space or a moldy place or something like that. So that's something every kitchen designer forgets to do. And most HVAC companies don't even know that that's an issue, because you're typically not upgrading your HVAC system when you're redoing your kitchen. So those are something to add to your kitchen design checklist is check the CFM. Also make sure that you're letting your HVAC company know how to bring that makeup air in so you can have a healthy and safe environment for the clients.
That's very useful information that I think, like you said, a lot of people kind of glass over that a lot of times whenever they're thinking about their range hood. And that's actually a big reason why a lot of our range hoods are listed at 400 CFM. Believe it or not, we were talking earlier about different counties and particular cities, even states having certain codes where, okay, if your CFM level is past this point, then you have to have makeup air. Well, that's why a lot of our range hoods are at 400 CFM actually, because a lot of those codes state that if you're above 400 CFM, you have to do makeup air, right? So we do have kind of a workaround for that, but if you want a more powerful range hood, you're definitely going to need a makeup air kit. ZLINE does not, we do not make our own makeup air kit, unfortunately, but there are universal makeup air kits that work perfectly with our range hoods. So that's usually what we recommend.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a range hood. It's not, I'm not just picking on range hoods. You've also got your dryers, they suck air out. You've got your bathroom fans, and if everything's running at the same time, you can have, especially if you have other gas appliances in the house, you can have backdrafting, things like that. That's why we're trying to push for all electric, so you don't have to worry about these things. But just make sure HVAC is designed to have balanced ventilation throughout your house, and you'll be good to go. Well, Logan, I really do appreciate all this time. Ran into you twice at the Builder Show, working on this first ever 1920s makeover passive house here in Georgia, going all electric, showing off induction, showing off how induction is better than gas for all the reasons that we just stated. And I look forward to seeing those new cooktops and slide-in ranges at the 2024 Builder Show in Vegas.
Yes, sir, Matt. I want to thank you for having me here today. We're super excited to be, kind of partnering with you guys in this passive house, ready to really see things come together there, and really hope that our paths continue to cross.
Thanks again for joining us on this journey as we continue to explore better building products and practices to help you have a more durable, healthy, safe, comfortable, and energy efficient home. For your convenience, we've uploaded other videos just like this. If you enjoyed this video, we appreciate it if you hit the like button and also hit subscribe and leave a comment below if you have any other questions about this topic.